Yeah, just fortunate. Good luck.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Great hunt.
But you killed a good buck too.
I did.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to do
A
that.
couple weeks later.
Yeah, couple.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was in November.
Yeah, it's like three weeks later, probably
Yep.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky and drew that late season quality tag, which was just pure luck. Pure luck. I had no right drawing that tag this year. No right. I mean, I didn't have
put in a lot of time for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have the points that you would typically think would go into a quality tag, but as fate would have it, my name came up in the hat, and that's kind of the Washington system. It's just a total crapshoot lottery.
Yeah,
So.
it's mainly a giant letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it always has been for me. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
putting in for 15 years, and I've never drawn any tag other than a second deer tag.
Mm-hmm.
And this season, I draw 2 quality tags.
Right.
I mean,
Just
When
keep
it
your
rains,
hooks,
it pours,
Just
man, yeah.
keep your hooks.
Yep, exactly.
You'll keep putting another 15 years into this.
Exactly. I'll keep
Yeah.
giving them more and more money every
What
year.
a banner year, though.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
You scroll and hope to see successful on one,
Yeah.
let alone 2.
Yep. I was
We were on the phone.
we were
together
on the
when it
phone
happened.
at work. I was at work. I called them
Yeah.
when we were gonna look at a result.
I couldn't get off the computer, and I was like, "Okay, dude, they're posted." And I called, and I was like, "No, you're staying on the phone with me. I want to hear this," because we were expecting him to draw the quality elk tag.
Yeah, I had a ton of points for that.
Yeah.
And so we were, that would have been a total shocker if I didn't draw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just so happened that the first one I looked at was the mule deer, and I'm like, Jeff, you will never believe this.
He said it so nonchalantly. Jeff, I drew blank, and I'm like, no, you didn't. Okay, go on. And he's like, no, dude, I am dead serious, and I just lost it at that point. I was like, dude, yes, I can't wait. But,
Oh, that's very subdued.
yeah,
What the
exactly.
actual reaction
And then he
was.
kept scrolling. And he's like, and I do my elk tag too. I was like, okay, now I'm hanging up.
I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, no kidding,
Well,
man.
no, that was my lottery ticket.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just stupid lucky this year. It just happened that way. So yeah.
And you got the weather for it too, which was nice.
Yeah, it was. So
But I'm thinking that first snow that you got hit with kind of maybe goofed things up.
yeah, it might have been a little early because there was that super early October heavy snow of 16 inches or
Yeah,
something.
and then
Yeah.
even the first weekend of Modern, Jacob was up in one of up in my spots, and he had snow.
Yeah, he had
And-
8 inches.
Exactly,
or so.
and the
Yeah.
years prior to for me being in there, we didn't have snow of that depth up in that ridge.
Like a dusting
so
here or
October
there.
kind of this year got a good snow for us,
Yeah.
and for Modern it helped a lot of people out like you. Maybe it helped you out, maybe not. We'll never know.
Yeah, maybe.
And then the final weekend of Modern, we got we measured. It was 18 inches.
Yep.
Wow.
Where we
And
were camped.
Where
at.
we were camped at. We got
And a
18
snow
inches
drift?
overnight. Yeah. And so I think maybe that attributed to maybe some early moving or something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe
get
a
'em
little
moving.
kickstart.
Mm-hmm.
The bucks
the
that are up
does out of the
there.
hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Are starting to think oh, maybe this is the one that's gonna not go away.
Yeah, the big storm that's just going to stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I've seen it. Where you get those storms like that.
Yeah.
Up north, and it's a mass exodus out of the hills, man. There's a mass migration.
Oh, I
Storms
bet,
like
yeah.
that come. You can just see these deer. I mean, they're just moving and they don't stop.
Yeah,
It's like they know
if you could
something
have
you don't
been,
know.
on a migratory route or something like that, I'm sure you could have just seen some,
Yeah, it's
some bucks cut.
crazy the type of movement you see sometimes with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it was cool. So we were over there. That was the second weekend of Modern.
Yep.
For Bobby's hunt.
Yep.
I came over to help. I got over there too late. They'd already killed one.
Yeah.
So I drove a long ways for a whole lot of nothing.
We got a nice deer, right? It's 3x4.
3x3.
3x3?
That was
Yeah.
an early archery. That was September.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was early season, and then Jacob shot one opening weekend, and then Bobby.
Opening morning.
Yeah, then Bobby shot his the second weekend. Third. was
Second
it
weekend.
Friday.
Yep. No. Yeah. Friday.
Yeah.
Yep, Friday.
Yeah, because I came up after work.
Yeah.
And
we already had it done.
yeah, I'm like an hour away, and they're like sending pictures of bloody knives, and I'm like,
He was like, "You're kidding, right?"
Yeah.
You're around.
yep. So, yeah, I ended up getting up and over there, and so I mean it worked out because I had never been up in the unit that I drew.
Yeah.
It was kind of Jeff's home unit, and so it gave me a chance to just drive roads that whole weekend. So I at least got a lay of the land, kind of sucked because it was snowing and just socked in, so I didn't
Yeah.
actually get to see the country. But I got to learn the roads, learn where they go, where they were going to take me.
Yeah.
Because 2 weeks after that was when we were heading back over.
Yep.
So we went over there for the opening weekend of my tag, which was, it opened on the 1st, and I think we were over there the 4th. And went over there and just started driving. I mean, it was a total kind of a scouting trip.
Yeah, that first weekend we kind of just basically let's just get our toes wet. We'll cover some country. We'll glass, and it's kind of what we did. And we turned up bucks.
Yeah, we did. We went up to the places that we got pointers on, and kind of some spots that we had kind of picked out for where we wanted to be. And you know, we saw a lot of little fork horns, a couple smaller 3 points, and we were like, this is a good sign. Like the smaller bucks are in here. We've seen some does. It's only a matter of time before some mature bucks start to show up. And so we took it.
We saw a couple mature, what I would say mature.
Yeah,
bucks.
we saw. There was that funky 2x4 with like the double eye guards.
Yeah, he was a cool buck.
He sounded like a cool buck.
He was
dude,
cool. He was dumb too. I walked within like 20 yards of him.
Really?
Yeah, I walked up and didn't even have a gun. I'm just like point like that and go bang, and he's just staring at me because he wasn't a doe. I mean, he was just
he's not moving.
He was rutting hard.
Yeah, he was just on her.
We saw the
completely.
does first.
Yeah.
And then kind of, got out of the truck and peeked over the rise.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw just like frame. And I was like, oh man, there's a buck with him. Or a buck with her. So I yell back at Zack, and he grabs the rifle. And we're kind of like, or no, you didn't grab the rifle. We just peeked at him.
Yep.
So we just kind of like walked down the road. We're like driving into one of our spots, just checking it out. We're like peeking down the road, and there he is, like off the road, like Zack said, 30 yards. And he had a double eye guard on his left side. And he was a 2-point by a 4-point. He was probably 23, 24 inches wide. Just a cool character. I've never seen the double eye guard like that.
Yeah, he was
and I'm
cool.
not talking like, a 1-incher and then like another 1-incher.
No, it was like a
solid
full, nice little
3-4 inch
yeah.
eye guards, and they kind of both went like, with the, instead of just like straight up or something, they kind of went out. It was a cool looking buck.
Yeah,
It was some cool character.
Yeah, he was cool. So he was probably the biggest, most mature buck we saw. And then we found another nice, just your classic 4x4, like 140-inch.
Those are good bucks.
Yeah, he was a great buck. I mean, we kept telling ourselves, like, we've never passed on legal bucks before. Neither of us had. And so, like, for us just to have, like, we saw this 140, 145-inch 4-point, and we actually went up after him with the rifle just to get closer, see what he was. And that was the first time I'd ever, like, had a deer in the scope.
And said no.
And passed on it. And like afterwards it was like this super weird feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, did that just happen? Did I just not shoot this? Like, this is a great deer. Like, in any general season, there'd be no doubt. For a couple guys who, have never even sized up a deer in the field and not shot it, it was really good practice for us actually to just be able to get in within range of this buck, and he was actually with another nice like 130 class buck.
Both bedded down. We got the spotter on them.
Lots of footage of them. I mean, it was perfect. And so for us to actually have the time and the patience to kind of size him up, look at him, and consciously decide like, no, I think we can do better. That was uncharted territory for us, and so. It's a little weird feeling at first, but after
deep
the fact,
in my soul, I was like, we could just shoot it. Right now.
It was like, oh, we could just be done. We're like 500 yards from the truck, all straight downhill. But
we're like
drag him whole
rifle. Like
there was 3 of us up there. Just
rifle on the bipod, spotter on him. He's bedded like broadside, bird blue sky.
Yeah,
it was just
But it was the first day.
Exactly.
It was the first day of a quality hunt, and it was just like
you put in that many years to do that hunt.
Yeah,
right? It's tough to.
And even if you do draw it, on a Hail Mary, you still want to experience it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, when you say Hail Mary, just clarify this.
Yeah.
How many? You don't say how many. Are you on the low side of 5 or the high side of 5? So
I'm
less
right
than 5, over 5.
In the middle of those two.
You got 5 points.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
And
You say Hail Mary. I think 5 points.
I think 5 points put you in the ballpark.
It puts you in the bottom of the ballpark.
Exactly.
That's why I'm saying Hail Mary. Like, and we ran into some other hunters that Jim Tuggle, who's been waiting for this tag for the high side of 15 to 20.
Yeah.
And that's what he's been waiting for. And then you
There's
got
some
guys
real
coming
unlucky
in with
guys.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. We got in there at the Hail Mary, and we still wanted the experience.
Yeah, that's what I went into this hunt for more than a score total of a deer.
Yeah.
I've never spent time hunting mule deer, specifically hunting mule deer. My family's always hunted whitetails and blacktails in Washington, and so growing up, I always went with my family. It was just the traditional deer camp that we went and did every year, and so I was really coming into this hunt like I want to experience mule deer hunting.
Yeah, and you're getting it in November, which is something that none of us have ever done. Like
Always
it's just
dream
like,
about it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's what you dream about, and we all would have been just extremely excited if you smoked that thing on opening day. But it would have been bittersweet. Like we're missing out on 15 days of
with a tag like that.
Question mark.
There's always like what's
the what
tomorrow
if.
going to bring.
Exactly.
Right, because you have on a quality tag like that, even on a general tag, but on a quality tag like that, you have a higher percentage shot at killing
a higher
180
caliber
buck,
yes.
180 buck.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Solid shot at doing that.
Yeah.
Granted, other things have to fall into place for that to happen.
It's still not easy, as we found out.
Yeah.
Luck,
but you're right.
There's a lot of luck that goes into it.
Yes.
Or
The classic
very
right
heavy-
place, right time.
Yeah, very heavy homework. Maybe somebody's watching a buck for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after you passed on him.
Yeah, I mean, we got lots of cool footage of him and just kind of watched him and then backed out of there. And we kind of were like, maybe we'll just keep him in our back pocket. If things don't go well, we can.
We kind of know where he's hanging out.
Yeah, we can come back in here, and we kind of had an idea like, if the right tag holder sees this buck, because he's in a pretty visible spot, he's gonna get taken.
Yeah.
Like
say an older gentleman who maybe can't do the harder backpacking stuff because
get crazy.
he was in an accessible spot that you could put in minimal work and find him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like we'll just keep him in the old back pocket, and we were ready to see him get taken, and
a lot of
and
quality,
we did.
Yeah, a lot of quality hunt bucks. A lot of them get taken like that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're taken off roads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say specific units, but there's one unit in general that is one of the premier units, and that's how that hunt goes.
Yeah, just road hunting.
They're just basically.
But that
if you
in the
can
late
get your
season,
truck up
that's kind of effective.
Yeah. I mean, talking to some guys who had not necessarily my unit's tag in the past, but other late rifle hunts, they were like, yeah, as kind of boring as it is, it does turn into a bit of a road hunt.
Yeah, you're
because
just looking over, dude.
you're just
Cover
trying to
country.
find as much country and as many animals as you can until you find the one that just is like, oh shit, I have to shoot this
Right.
one,
This
you
thing
know.
is, exactly.
And so that's what you're waiting for. And so, we had that first weekend, and so that first weekend was awesome. I mean, we were through the roof with how excited we were, seeing lots of deer, some good, like, middle of the road bucks that
I think we left that weekend on Sunday with 15 legal bucks.
Yeah.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
That's why
it
we
was
were
more
like-
than any of us had ever seen in a weekend.
We've seen total of 65 deer, I think, and
Yeah.
then 15 legal bucks. Majority of them being 4-point bucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple good bucks that were like, we could have taken them, and he could have been told he's never taken a mule deer buck
yeah.
ever.
That's crazy. You have that tag.
Exactly what we
Never
were saying.
spent any time in the mule deer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what we're saying.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Spoiled rotten.
so now your expectation levels are like
That's why I told him.
here.
Oh,
And
trust me.
there's like-
I'm still gonna shoot the first 3-point I see.
There's like perception and reality, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like
yeah.
the reality of mule deer hunting is like here.
Yeah, and he got to experience this.
You experience this,
Yeah.
so you're basically just like fucking ruined.
Yeah, I
Dude,
was gonna tell
imagine
him.
if I would have experienced that though, like 3 years prior.
Oh yeah.
If
It's
that
like,
was
it's
your
like
first
if
time.
you were
Yeah.
born into like a ton of money and you're like, this is what life is
Oh
like.
yeah, it's easy.
And then you are
Yeah.
poor the next day. And you're like,
What
that's what
happened
that's
to
what
our swimming pool?
This is what real life is
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah. No, totally, man. It was, coming out of that weekend, it was an all-time high, and we're just like, wow, we cannot wait to get back.
Yeah, so we had that weekend, then I had to come back, work the next week, and then I had the rest of the season to be there. So I had the 10th through the 20th. So I had the last half of that season to be there.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, just texting all week. Just can't wait to get back over there. Just work is just dragging by and whatever. So finally Friday comes and we head out, and Jacob's going to meet us over there and get the wall tent set up and get it all ready to go. And then it was just a lot slower. I mean, everything changed. Yep, everything changed in that week for whatever reason. I mean, they got some more weather kind of in and out, and then I think a lot more of the tag holders came over at that point too. And they were pretty much all the tag holders were focused in on like 2 road systems up there. And so it was like you drive up there and you're passing people. All these rigs are going up 2 road systems
that were good.
Yep.
That you're looking at, like your Onyx maps or whatever, and you're looking at, oh, this ridge looks good. There's a car park there.
Yep.
And you want to give that guy respect, and maybe he beat you there, and you want to.
If he's there before,
exactly. So that's the way we played it. If there was a car park there, we're gonna go find something else.
Yep.
And that's what he was saying. These 2 main road systems that. Talking to previous tag holders say that this is the hot spot. This is even the biologists in the area said that this particular area is a migration.
Yep.
So concentrate here, and we did that maybe for a little too long, and we just running into people because apparently they got the same news we did, and with my previous experience in the unit, we tried several different areas, and it would come up completely empty. And
we cut some track. We cut like a little bit of fresh deer sign, but nothing that says the rut is on and the migration is on. Like you go into a quality hunt in November, and you think you're going to be seeing 50 deer a day.
Yeah.
You're going to be seeing deer all over the place. Younger bucks chasing does all over the place. You're going to be passing on, your typical 120, 130 3-point in Washington, and for a few days, we weren't even seeing many of those, maybe a couple a day, and it was kind of like, man, what's going on? Or is the rut not here yet? Or was it early?
Was it gone?
And did we miss it?
Like majority of the does have been bred that were popping off already.
Like
twosies maybe around.
Exactly. And so we were like, because we were seeing way more rut activity that first weekend than we did the second.
And then you're kind of kicking yourself like, did we take the wrong week off? Because we strategically asked, several of our fellow hunters, like, hey man, what's the best, if you got a week to take off, which week you taking? And they were like, oh, towards the end, when you really got the weather going. So that's what we did, and we took that last weekend off, and we're like, man, did we take that wrong week off? Because that opening weekend was it was on fire.
I've always thought that first up until like November 12th in the area, that general range has been the better time for.
And that, I think that typically is what it is.
And then you get that late because I've hunted mule deer with a bow in late season. And there's still 4 points running does. There's a lot of that, and that's November 21st.
Until the 30th or something. Yeah,
exactly.
And I think that's just a testament to every year it's different, man. Like weather's different.
The burns this summer could have pushed those deer that typically might have migrated down into this area.
A couple drainages over.
Exactly. Just because of what happened. I mean, I think that it's a totally, whatever the year, the seasons, it all matters when it comes down to that.
Yep. All these smaller things that can happen affect what happens each year. And in this particular area, like 3 years ago, it was a slaughter. I mean, it was like record-breaking deer numbers being taken out of this area. And, after kind of being up there and seeing what we were seeing, it was like, it kind of made sense to me is like, 3 years ago, a ton of your 3 and 4 year old bucks got shot out. And so what we're not seeing now are those 6 and 7 year old bucks that would be your typical big, mature bucks.
That slaughter season, there was 2 bucks that came out of there over 200 inches.
Yeah. Yep. And so
in that general area, that 2015, there was a good span of years that just monsters got taken out over the counter.
Yeah.
Like 13, I think 13, 15, and even 16, there was 200-inch bucks coming out of that ecosystem.
Yeah. And I don't know what the bio specifically thought what caused that sort of early migration, whether they're thinking that it.
We asked him, and he didn't really have an answer.
Yeah.
It dried up high.
That was his one kind of inkling, was that it was such a heavy drought year that it dried up and forced them down.
Earlier than they typically do, and it just happened to land during season.
Man, they just walked right into a slaughter.
Yeah.
They were just every day you were watching, and every day you'd watch, and there'd be, online, and there'd be 3 or 4 more just toads taken.
Yeah, we talked to a couple of the local guys who talked to, who know the butchers in town. And that season, they were putting in like 600-700 deer through the butcher.
Wow.
In town.
That's insane.
Insane. And, we talked to the biologists at the check stations and stuff like that. And the second weekend of General with Bobby, we stopped in there and checked his deer in just after the fact and stuff like that. And we were like, oh, how many deer have you checked in? And they were like, 9. And we were like, oh, 9 today? They're like, no, 9 for the season.
Wow.
9 bucks had come through there. And we were like, well, what's typical? And they're like, 80.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I know we had a hard winter last year too.
Yep.
That could have had a play in what the recruitment was.
Yep. Hard winter plus the big burns and, a couple of years ago being slaughtered. I mean, all these things just add up to deer numbers just aren't as strong as they were. I mean, don't get me wrong. We still saw lots of deer. We still saw lots of does and lots of small, younger bucks, which is great for the future generations.
Right, those 3-year-old bucks that were small on that slaughter year.
Exactly. Yeah, they were little spikes or whatever that year, so they were safe.
Not legal.
Yep. And so we saw lots of forks, a couple really nice forky bucks,
right.
and then your typical basket 3s and basket 4 points. There was good bucks like that running around. So just like any other unit, it's going to bounce back. These areas these deer are so resilient. They'll bounce back and they'll be fine.
They definitely ebb and flow.
Yep.
So, my family, we have some property like East Central Washington. We can watch the deer herds ebb and flow. So they'll get real ramped up and they'll real high capacity and they'll just drop.
Oh, yeah.
And they just do this ebb and flow.
Yep.
So you never know if it's just what it's naturally doing or things like that slaughter had a huge impact, which of course it does have an impact.
Yeah.
How measurable is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say because when we talk to the biologist, who knows? He could just be spewing positivity, but he said their buck to doe ratio was better than they'd ever seen it on their winter flyovers and all that stuff. And he said their fawn mortality rate was high from the winter kill, but it wasn't historically high.
Right.
It was about 8% higher than normal. And so
8% is still a lot.
Oh yeah, it is. But he said I think it was 95. We had the really bad winter, and I think he said it was like 20% higher than normal.
Wow.
And so that was like kind of the ballpark he was equating it to. So regardless, it was a great hunt. It was super fun. Getting to see deer just in general like that was awesome. And we got to watch lots of rut activity. Granted, it was from smaller bucks, but still getting to watch them run does and run other bucks off, and seeing them mountain does, and just all the stuff that they do throughout that rutting season is just. It's impressive to watch. It's just super fun.
So you got a lot of experience condensed down into that one season.
Oh,
which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like we've talked, we want to go out of state in the future where you can hunt November mule deer just over the counter.
And you might not see the age class you do on that quality hunt
exactly
because
you
have a general.
Yeah, but we get to see that. How they interact. We get to see, all their mannerisms change versus, October hunting to November. And then just the fact that we kind of got to look at a lot of bucks and finally get an idea in our head like, oh, that's about a 130. Oh, that's about a 140. Oh, so that we kind of know moving forward instead of just being like, I don't know, 3, bang. Like that's how I've always
1, 2, 3, shoot.
Yeah. Oh, there's 2. Where's the eye guard?
Turn your head. It's a 3-point.
Yeah, exactly.
It was really cool, like you're saying, just to be able to look over bucks, man.
Yeah.
Like I've never just been able to pick a buck and just like, oh, that's a really solid buck. Maybe in the early archery when you're looking at them, but that's different because you still got to put the work in and stalk and make the kill. But when you've got a rifle and you're looking over buck, it's like I have a really good chance of taking one of these, and you can be kind of picky on that tag. And I think that was just something we've never experienced, and it was amazing.
Yeah. It was. I wouldn't change it actually. It's like, of course, I would have loved to see.
What would you want different?
Yeah, of course, I would have loved to seen a lot of 160, 170 bucks, whatever. But at the same time,
but if that does happen, you're looking over 160s and you're looking over 170s. I mean, like, when you see that 180, or is it that much more impactful?
Yeah,
Right.
That's true.
But like when you're looking at 130s and 140s and you see a 160, you're like, your heart's jumping out of your chest.
Oh yeah, it's like it is a giant.
You're like, that is a giant deer.
Yeah.
I think that. I mean, yeah, looking over big deer is great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Looking over deer is great.
Oh yeah.
But I think like the situation that you had where it's like smaller buck, and like you're getting to that highs and lows, and all of a sudden you see that buck and it's like bam, skyrocket.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, definite adrenaline rush when you see that mature buck that you've been looking for. Because I mean, we went, what was it, day 8 that we finally saw the buck that I missed?
We heard about him on
The day before. Yep. So another hunter, a buddy of ours, Ty, who his daughter had the whitetail tag over there, so he couldn't shoot a mule deer anyways. He saw this mule deer buck, big 3-point, that it was. I mean, word spread so fast between the tag holders that there was a mature buck in the area.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the tag holders had all kind of condensed onto one pocket of
where
land.
the higher population of deer were hanging out. Majority of your tag holders were cruising by at least once a day.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we did. We'd go like real deep, real far all day, and then maybe hit this spot in the afternoon. And we ran into Ty, and he gave us a tip and said, "Hey man, there's a I would have shot this buck if I had the tag, And he's like, there's a good buck in this area. So Zach and I kind of, okay, we'll check it out. So that's what we did.
Yeah, we went over there, and we went over there the day that he told us about it, actually. My dad was able to come over for a couple days to join in on the hunt. And all 4 of us were there, so me, Jeff, Jacob, and my dad. We went over to this area, and sure enough, we parked the truck, and, there's deer out there, and we're looking at them, and I think we saw that it was a buck right away, and it was a smaller buck. And Ty had told us, it was a big 3-point and a smaller 4x3, I think. And we were like, that's the 4x3. The 3-point's got to be in here. So off we go, and my dad stayed back at the truck so he could watch the deer and see what's going on. And we got up there, and 3x3 was nowhere to be found. And we were like, okay. I mean, cool. We'll just keep this spot in mind. We'll just keep coming back here and checking it because he's got to be close.
Yeah.
And so we went back up there the very next day in the afternoon, or midday.
Yep.
Midday, and went up there.
And kind of hung out until evening.
Yeah, and we kind
See if
of.
you pop up.
Yeah, instead of going straight out to where these deer were, we kind of side hilled up and got up above so that we can just kind of glass over this whole big. It's kind of a big flat bottom area with a bunch of aspens and stuff in there.
Super cool deer country.
Yeah, and big sagebrush, rolly stuff.
It was transitions of like sagebrush and then up into a hillside and then aspen pine. Oh man, it was just a picturesque mule deer.
It was beautiful.
And every time we went in there, we multiple deer, does cruising, bucks cruising, and
and so we were walking up there, and all of a sudden I just spotted deer moving. I'm like, deer, and then I'm like, that's a buck, and we look and we're like, that's the big 3-point. I mean, it was like 5 minutes going up into there, and we spotted him, and so we cruised down off the hill,
and he was on a doe.
Yeah, hard, right on the edge of this aspen thicket, and literally standing on the edge.
He was a foot from being unseeable.
Yeah,
and he stood there.
Yeah, we cruised down across, got to this fence line, just the posts are left.
Right.
Yeah. Just cruising down it, trying to cut some distance so that the undulation of the ground, you kind of had to keep going up so that we could actually see him again.
And the wheatgrass in between us and him was, 4 or 5 feet tall.
Yep.
And then there's a fence line, the old cattle fence. It's just cruising down, and we're kind of like right along with it, and we'd get up and I'd pop up in range, and Zach had a number in his mind, and that's what we were getting to. So we're cruising, and I'm like, okay man, this is it, and set the camera up. And
yeah, so I got set up on one of those posts, just lean the gun up there, and I'm kind of this is the first time I'm like setting up on a deer this whole hunt. First time setting up on a deer with the camera rolling and stuff like that.
But then we got down. Was it before we got here that we decided this is one that you were happy taking?
Yeah.
Or when did we?
Yeah, we had looked at him and we knew that it was the big 3-point.
Yeah.
And when we got a little bit closer, we had looked him over and we were like, oh yeah, he's definitely a shooter. He is bigger than anything we've seen by far.
I don't think Tony's seen this buck. I got a picture of him. But go ahead.
And so we kind of get into position, and I'm getting set up. Jeff's getting the camera set up with the phone scope and trying to get all this stuff timed out. And I'm, oh god, yeah.
That's a nice buck. He's young.
Yeah, he's young. That's what we
Young
just
deer.
we figured too. He just got good genes.
Yep.
Real good genes.
And he's just a solid 3.
Carries his mass all the way through.
Yeah.
He's got
We'll throw the picture up
really
on the
good
video for you.
main beams. His backs are good.
He's got a tank of a body too.
Yeah.
He's a big deer.
Yeah. And you see, like, he's on the side, on the edge of being. You couldn't see that. No. If he takes 2 steps into that, he's gone, disappearing.
His head is way too small for his body.
Yeah, that's how I'm saying. He just looks like a young. He's a pretty buck.
He's a pretty buck.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we're getting set up, and I've kind of always been the type that I'm a much better reactionary shooter than
a whitetail hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
Pushing them.
I'm just
bird hunt.
I've never been the best range shooter where I just have time to sit there and think about it. I kind of get in my own head and trying to make it too perfect. And I've also never used a scope like Jeff has, where it has a turret where you actually have to adjust and so I think a lot of that kind of got into my own head, and he was at just right at that 300-yard mark, and Jeff kind of set the scope up for me, and I don't know what happened. I thought I held right on him, and I shot, and he kind of humped up, and I thought for sure I drilled him. He humped up and kind of took 10 steps and stopped and kind of is like looking around. The doe's just in the thicket right there, and he just kind of stands there and he's kind of looking towards us, and so I jack another one in, take another shot, and he kind of humps again and then just walks into the thicket. And we're like celebrating. We're like, oh yeah, he's smoked, like.
It's like, how could you have missed this?
Yeah.
Right, especially if it humps up twice.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have it all on video, and it wasn't until, he walked in and we're like, okay, perfect. The hour wait starts now.
Yep.
And we're going to, sit down and wait for him to expire, and me and Zack are, doing the high five thing, and then, getting excited, and I buzzed out the phone scope was going, and we look at the video, and you can see the vapor trail, clean over his back.
You see the bullet hits a little twig right over the top of him. It's
so
just
he's
like
he
just kind of
reacted to it.
Yeah,
he's just like whap, and then I'm sure it whizzed right over him, so he kind of like hopped up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with, I think, that 3-point, the mature 3-point, where he kicked.
Exactly.
I think it just right on the top of his back.
I was listening to a Meat Eater podcast, and Steve had the same situation happen to him. Yeah. And he was just like, why did that buck react to that? He just couldn't. He thought he hit it as well. And we have video proof that the bullet went right over him, and it hits the twig, and you can see the twig, and then the buck just trots up.
Yeah, and then we're sitting there, and all of a sudden Jeff's like, there he is. He came out of that thicket. He worked all the way through the thicket.
Not in any hurry at all.
Up to the other side, like just 6-7 minutes later. Yeah. And he just gets up on the other side, and he's stopped up there at like 350, 400
I think
at this
it was
time.
like the 4 range.
Yeah, and so I took another shot, and that one we clearly missed. It was it was over the top of him as well.
I didn't get this one on phone scope, but I ranged him, and he's like walking up, range it, dial to 400, and he stops broadside, maybe a little quartering away.
Yeah.
And Zach's like, on the post again. He puts it up, and I'm looking through the spotter instead of phone scoping it. I'm worrying about getting this buck down, So I'm looking through it, and then boom, dirt fly right over his back, and I'm just like, no man, missed. And at this point, he kind of realized what was going on.
Yeah, and he just slow trotted up the hill and kind of got to this one bush and just disappeared. And we were like, did he lay down? Did he, because he had gone off probably another 500 yards. We're like, did he just kind of go in bed? What's he doing? Like, because you just, there's always so many little humps and rises that he just got behind something. But,
a little crack.
Exactly. Yeah. We went up there and we searched the rest of the day.
Because I was confident he missed because I saw the dirt. But then I was thinking to myself, maybe that was pass through. And I saw the dirt come up, and we did our due diligence to go check and to verify there was no blood on all 3 locations, nothing at all. And
we probably spent 3 hours, just scouring that hillside, making 100% sure that we missed. And so, we decided, yep, we missed. Let's go to the range and check this gun and make sure that it's still on.
That's
also
a good thing to do.
Were at a
I was super low. I felt awful. We had been out there for 8 days. Jeff had taken time away from his family.
Yeah, he
and
kept on
work
saying
and,
sorry to me, dude. I'm like, dude, I've been there. Like, I get it.
I felt horrible,
Yeah.
and it's just such a bummer. Like, the hunt wasn't going as phenomenally as we thought, so it was like, dude, this was like the chance to get like a mature buck.
That's what you think. Like, just like you were explaining, like you had a beautiful buck, you take the shot, and you're like, dude, that was my shot.
Yeah, usually you're hunting for one opportunity.
Exactly.
And you have to capitalize.
What I mean? And you got to take that opportunity. And make the best of it.
Yep.
And when you don't, right? So you airball, like in my situation.
Yep.
I'll
Same.
stay on this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
airballed over bucks.
Yep. So did I.
Like, you get down.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I don't know if I'm going to get another opportunity
Yep.
again. And
Exactly.
that was the opportunity.
Yep.
And I think that the next step for us, because Zack had also not shot my rifle many times.
Yeah.
Especially at a deer. He shot it at
I've
a
shot
target.
my rifle a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I still airball.
And then he was kind of like, oh, maybe it's the gun or maybe it's the optics that I'm not used to because I have a 1.5-pound jewel trigger on there. It's something, it can kind of surprise you, but that's what you want.
That's what you want.
Exactly. So we took it to the range, and I'm not lying. I have never seen a better grouping out of that rifle in the entirety of that rifle. Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry, Zack, but that rifle is dead on.
But the thing was, I felt awesome afterwards because I was like, I know it's not the rifle.
Yep.
Like, I'm confident in the gun
Tools
now.
good.
Yeah.
Yep. I just shot that group. I was like, and I looked Jeff dead in the eye. I go, I'm not going to miss again.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're going to have another chance.
And that's when it happened. Is I was like, dude, you're shooting lights out. I mean, it was 3 shots on a quarter at 100 yards. It was touching, 3 shots touching. It was unbelievable. And then
Better birds than my gun.
Exactly. And then you see like the confidence come back, and Zack's like, okay, man, Jeff, I'm not gonna miss. I was like, this is the attitude we want. You know what I mean? Like, let's go. Past is the past. You can't change it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. And then the next morning.
Yeah, the next morning we had kind of decided we were going to head back to that same general area because we were like, there are so many does in this general little spot. If we just clean miss this thing, he's going to come back eventually. This buck is going to come back in here. And so we were heading that way, and we just happened to spot a whole group of deer way down off to the side.
And we're super close to the spot that we wanted to be.
Yeah, we're like 500 yards from the turnoff to go up to that spot.
Yeah.
And we just happen to see all these deer, and we're like, oh, let's get out and look at them. What? Maybe he came down here. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we're looking at them, and it's like 30-something does. And, a couple little bucks in there and stuff. And we're like, okay, and I'm on the spotter, and Jeff's got his binos up, and I just happen to scan way to the right. And I'm just like, yeah, let's see what's over here. And I was like, so yeah, we're looking at this big group of deer, got them in the spotting scope, and just kind of happened to glance over to the right, and I just happened to see a buck, and I'm like, Jeff, you need to look at this one. It's a new buck, and because we had seen this area had like the same 3 bucks running it.
Yeah.
For like 3 or 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, there's the basket 4x3, and there's the 2x2, and whatever. And then finally it's like, oh, here's a new buck.
Right.
And sure enough, Jeff gets on the spotter, and he's looking, he's like, we aren't going anywhere. He's like, screw the 3-point now. Like, we are staying right here.
Because he was on private.
Because he was on private property at the time.
And when Zack said, Jeff, I got a new buck spotted, he's up cruised with those. And my initial reaction was, holy shit. Like, I have never in my life seen a buck of this caliber, right?
Really?
And it's just like instantly, like your heart stops, you're pounding.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute stud of a buck. And it was make the call of camp on him and see if he comes into public by the grace of God, or cruise up and try to find that 3-point that is on public.
You never leave fish to find fish.
That's exactly what we said.
We kept saying that.
You don't leave deer to find deer, and we decided to sit on him, and
we kind of had to play a couple games because other tag holders were driving by, so
Into
we'd
the
have
spot.
turn the spot and scope to look down at the other deer because he was kind of up
Smart.
in a little area where you couldn't
smart.
see him from the road.
Yeah.
Very well. You'd have to know where he was
Yeah.
to see him. And so they'd be like, "Oh, are you looking at that group of deer down there?" And be like, "Yep, nothing worth going after down there."
Yeah.
A lot of times
Same old buck down there.
when a buck's on private, right? A lot of guys come by and look at him or
Yeah.
and keep going, right?
Yeah.
It's like when bucks on private, it's like the deer doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? So,
and that's
like,
the way you need to be, so you don't get tempted when
Yeah,
you do dumb
like when
stuff
I was
sometimes,
young,
or-
like deer hunting, we'd always stop and look
Exactly.
at the deer in the fields. Like,
Oh,
look
yeah.
at that buck, or
Yeah.
look at those deer, and then you start counting. Oh, I saw 6 bucks today. Well, how many were on public?
Yeah.
None.
None.
Then you
Yeah.
saw none.
One.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
then you saw no deer.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
So yeah, he was up on private, but he was only
50 yards.
80 yards, 50 to 80
You could
yards.
see where he.
You can see the boundary.
Yeah, there's a big fence line right there.
but you could see like he was working his way.
Oh no, not
at
really.
first he kind of worked.
So you were just like
Hoping.
rolling the dice.
Well,
We were gonna
because
stay.
there was a big group of does on public. That the majority of the deer were on public.
So there were some lures out there
Yep.
for him.
Exactly.
And the hot one happened to be on upon
Yeah,
private.
he was with
He was
one
not leaving
single doe.
Right, but
And
she's gonna want to go.
That's what we were
towards
hoping.
those does.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what we were hoping, and we were not going to leave that spot until dark. And this was pre-daylight. Like it's prime time, and we're glassing, and we're not leaving this deer. I don't care what we do. It's 18 degrees this morning.
Yeah.
We're freezing, in the spotter, but we weren't leaving him.
Yeah.
And eventually, this doe that he was on cruised up, did like a fish hook, and came onto public, and he followed.
Perfect.
Yeah. After a lot of waiting, he kind of teased us once. He came down towards the fence, and then she looped back onto private.
Yep.
And then they bedded for quite a while.
Yep.
And not until another small 4x3 buck came up there. There was like the big buck, her, and a little 2-point bedded in the same general area. And the little basket 4x3 came up and sparred with the 2-point and kind of kicked him out of there.
Yeah.
And then was like staring down the big guy. Like he got all his bravado up
Oh, yeah.
because he just whooped this little 2-point.
Challenging the
And
big
he's
guy.
like, ugh, and we're like, oh my God, like they're
like
going to fight.
30 yards staggered. Big buck is looking down on him. Little
Yeah.
buck's like up with his ears back. The little
Yep.
buck's got his ears back.
Pinned
He's like,
back and-
that's when we realized that doe is 100% hot. Like
Yeah.
that's his deer. She's, they're worth fighting over. Ears are pinned. It was like some of the coolest
Yeah.
bird blue sky morning. Fog layer on. It was just a
Yeah, it was
picture
awesome.
perfect hunt morning.
So that little 4x3 actually got him to stand.
yeah.
And
Right.
he stood up, and then his doe kind of stood up and just kind of like they do, just kind of like walked away, like washed their hands of the situation. And
Yeah.
she was like, I'm going to go away.
Yeah.
And then he
You guys
kind of
are
just,
annoying.
yeah. And he just kind of looked at that little buck, and he just was like, gave him one of those, and he followed her. And then right then they were heading right towards the fence, and I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I just left my pack. I left everything. I took the gun, my rangefinder, and my binos, and that was it. Because it was like, I think we were like 500 and something yards from him at that point.
I think the public boundary I think was pushing that 6 mark, and so Zack took off as soon as he started heading towards public, and I was like, yeah, dude, you gotta go, because if he jumps that fence, I mean, like we said before, people are driving by, like you gotta be in this area. And so he took off down, and it was, like I said, 20 degrees this morning. Dew is on the grass.
Just frozen tall grass like this. And because of kind of how the land laid out, he was up at the head of like a little drainage. And it's just all sagebrush and just the smallest little draw that he's at the head of. He jumped the fence, stood there and stared at the fence for like 10 minutes.
On the private side.
Yep, just like,
stared at it.
do
like
I
this
wanna
close.
go over there?
Like looking at his doe, who's 10 yards into public now.
Yep.
And he's just looking at her, and he's on the public boundary. And Zach's already down, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, he's gonna come into public. And he just did that little like, and then like came on, and it was like, boom, like it's on, like he's legal. It was an epic.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome because like I finally got down to like kind of I went down and came up and over this little finger, and I could see him standing up, and I'm like, okay, there he is. And then he bedded, and I was like, perfect. He's just gonna lay there. The doe had bedded. He's just gonna bed with her right here.
Yeah.
And he just so happened to be like 15 yards inside this fence line.
Yeah.
And there was a big no hunting sign right to the right of him,
Yeah.
marking the boundary. And so I could use that no hunting sign as a landmark when I'm like moving down. Like if I can't see the deer and I can see that sign, I know where he's at.
Right.
And so I had to scoot down, get down into the bottom of this drainage, and it's just tall weeds that are frozen over. So I'm belly crawling and sliding on my ass down this hill, soaking wet.
But it's quiet, right?
It was quiet to a point, yeah. Once I got through that taller stuff, it was real quiet because it was just sagebrush and that kind of
Nothing worse than those wild sunflower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those giant leaves that sound like potato chips.
Oh yeah, yeah. There wasn't too much of that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So
those
I get
weren't wet enough to not make noise.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. So I get down there and I'm belly crawling and just kind of like, going on my side, just trying to get through there. And all the while I'm having to watch because there's so many other deer that they keep popping up and over the ridge into this little draw. And so, I'd be sliding around, and then all of a sudden, oh, here's a deer. I got to lay down and not move for a while. And so, I had a goal as to where I wanted to get to. I had seen this little knob, and I was like, if I can get on that knob, I'm going to be like 150 yards from this buck. And there was enough sway in the ground that if I could get around this little finger and behind that knob, I could get up and just go at him. He wouldn't be able to see me. And so, sure enough, I get up and I get around there, and that little basket 3x4 comes back down chasing a doe. And so I'm having to lay down, lay back, and just wait. And this little basket 3-point works all the way up and around me, like 20 yards away. Wind's blowing right at him, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, he's going to blow out. He's going to run.
Right.
That buck's going to get up and run. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no. Nope, he just stands there, kind of looks around, turns around and walks right back where he came and leaves.
Perfect.
And I'm just like, thank you.
Yeah.
So I can finally get up and go. And this is like 2.5 hours later of this. So I finally get up on top of this little knob, peek up, and I can't see him, but I can see the sign. So I'm like, okay, he's got to be in that sagebrush, and I'm looking. Finally, I see an antler. I'm like, yes, he's still there, So sure enough, I'm up on top, and I just kind of found a spot where there was just one lane where there's no sagebrush, just a crystal clear shot right towards him. And I laid down, got the gun up, bipod all set up, laying down prone, and I'm just looking at him in the scope, and I'm like, okay, he's just bedded there. Like all I could see was his head, like neck and up. And it's just laying there, kind of looking around, doing his thing. I didn't know where his doe was. I didn't know any of that. She had to be there somewhere because he would have left.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking at him, and I've got him in the scope, and I'm like dead solid on him. And I'm like, do I want to take this shot? Like after this like 3-hour stop.
And he's 15 feet from the boundary.
Yeah.
So if you pop him and he doesn't, good hit, he's gonna jump that fence,
Yeah.
and then you're in a pickle.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? And I like ranged him again. I'm like, it was 151 on the dot. And I'm like, I actually said out loud to myself, like, you can do this. Like, I just like kind of took that second to like calm myself again. Like, no, I got this,
What I just did yesterday, I can do this.
Yeah, and I just sat in there.
Can't get any worse than you did yesterday.
No, and I just held that thing just like, it was just rock steady, and I just touched it off, and then and he was just laying over, and all I could see was the antler sticking up sideways, and I'm just like,
Nice.
stood up like celebration mode,
And
That buck was full of so many wins, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you won, the buck comes over the fence.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, dude, it
Another
was
win,
meant to be.
That buck doesn't run him out.
Yep.
Yep.
Another win, you pick him up.
Yep.
And then another win, you can dump him in the neck.
Oh,
And the craziest thing is like I'm watching him through the spotter. I'm watching the whole thing. Zach didn't have his phone. He couldn't communicate with me. And I'm just watching it. And all of a sudden I start seeing in my spotting, like I got the spotter on the buck. And in my frame, I could start to see orange. And I see Zach crawling. And I'm like, oh, this is it, And I can start seeing Zach moving. And I see him, finally he bucks the bipod out and gets down. I'm like, oh, my God, it's going to happen. Fog layer. I could not see anything. And all of a sudden, I just hear boom, and I heard the contact with the buck, and it was like 2, 3, 4 minutes later, the fog clears, and in my spotting frame, I just see a buck dead in his bed. Just laying down. I couldn't see if the buck got up to run.
I thought you were gonna say you saw him just dancing. Dancing
no, like I couldn't see. Like I was his eyes. At this point, it's like, oh man, he got up and he ran to here in case he couldn't see him. And I was like hoping. All this stuff's going through my mind. I was like, did he get up? Did he hit him good?
Right.
Because thinking like he took a lung shot.
Right.
And he's gonna expire in 60 yards or whatever. And the fog clears, and in the spotting scope, it was the most amazing picture in the bed, just expired there, and it was just like, wow, what
I just put
shot.
It right behind the ear.
That's a hell of a shot.
And it was I'm just gonna do it. I felt super good. I mean,
if you had everything going for you, like rock solid rest.
Oh yeah, it was.
Wind was down.
Yep.
You have all those things in your favor. Yeah.
It was perfect. Like I said, I had one clear lane. There was no brush in my way. Bipod set, laying prone, just perfect, able to just hold it right in there and just.
There's nothing where you're like, maybe.
Yeah, no, it was just I was like, no, I'm gonna make this shot.
That's the shot.
Perfect.
We'll put it on the video for you as well, but
perfect.
That's the. I mean, it was unbelievable.
The point of pancake.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It was incredible, and I think it was pretty cool for you to be down there alone too.
It was
at that time.
Yeah, it was. It was like it allowed me to really calm myself,
Yeah.
and take that second to tell myself no, you've been here before. You've killed deer. You know how to do this.
Yeah.
Get out of your head kind of thing and just shoot.
Was this your first legitimate spot and stalk?
No.
On a deer?
No, I had an all day spot and stalk on a whitetail buck that I killed too.
Yeah.
And it took me all day. But this was the only other one. Every other one has been there's a deer and it's coming towards me, bang, or
ready.
whatever. But this was my only other long extended stalk situation, and after doing the stalk, I was like, the stalk was the hard part, getting in there and
close.
And that's
all that.
Shooting some not the easy part.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so seeing him after I pulled that trigger and putting the scope back on him and just seeing him flopping, just laid over. I think he kicked his leg twice, and just seeing that through the scope, it was it was the best feeling, It's just
Do you think the confidence at the range prior to this day helped
Oh,
that?
absolutely. You know, knowing 100% that the gun was on. I didn't even have to think about the gun at all. I didn't have to think about the scope. I didn't have to think about adjusting for anything. I was 150, I'm holding dead on. I don't have to think about nothing.
Yeah.
And shooting a good group the day before, I was just no, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it was an epic conclusion to just an amazing hunt, amazing season for us as PNWild, and it seems like everybody involved. It was just an amazing outcome.
We met some freaking awesome people.
Yeah,
on
shout out
that
to
hunt.
Kevin. Thank you for helping pack that out. That was awesome.
And letting us shower.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That was awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it was super cool. And then I'm standing down there by myself, and I'm yelling back up at the truck towards him,
here.
"Get your ass down here! I don't want to wait any longer! Hurry up!" And he's up there trying to film stuff and get all ready and getting my pack and getting his pack. But yeah, it was just a beautiful day and all that. So it's it just worked out so perfectly.
So when you walked up on that buck, being your first mule deer, what did?
Oh, I thought he was a 200-inch buck. Yeah. I think we all did. When we first looked at him after, you were saying, after looking over so many 130
little bucks,
we were this thing is King Kong. Yeah.
He ran the mountain, dude. And when you come across a buck like that, and it's just they give off the persona of this is the buck that we're
that's
here
what
to
I'm
take.
saying. When you look over those bigger, a bunch of bigger H-class deer, and you're looking over 5 inches.
Yeah, that's hard.
And then you get a deer like that where it's you're looking at sub-mature bucks, right?
Yeah.
And then you see one like that, and you're like, bam. You know what I mean? That's cool.
Yeah, we're looking at 130s, 140s, and then you jump to Zack's buck, and you're just whoa, that. There's a difference.
I mean, just
holy cow.
Just looking at him through the spotter and on the phone scope footage and stuff like that, just the mass and the heavy antlers that he holds all the way through. it was so much different compared to all the other bucks that we had seen.
Right.
You know, they were all your more spindly buck. And this one finally was like, that thing has mass, and it is dark chocolate antlers, and you know, just kind of the stuff that you're looking for on a hunt like that maturity in an animal, and you finally see it, and it like takes your breath away at first. You know, you're just like, oh shit, there he is. You know, like
it's immediately like this is the buck I was meant to take on this hunt.
Yeah.
And your buck had good mass.
Yep.
Dark chocolate horns.
Yep.
Amazing eye guards.
Forms,
You know.
amazing eye guards.
Yeah.
The
Kickers on the bases. I mean.
Yeah. Good buck.
I couldn't have asked for more. I mean, absolutely not. And I never would. You know, I've never been an inch counter or chaser. So to shoot a buck that's even just worthy of scoring, I guess, you know, is cool in itself.
Or just knowing they're fucking big.
Yeah.
You don't have to score.
Exactly.
That deer is big.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, there's been a lot of people who are like, oh, what's it score? How wide is it? What's it score? And I'm like, I don't care. It scored the holy shit factor when I looked at him.
Exactly.
You know, like that's way more important. And I mean, we talked about it because he was asking me before the hunt, like, you know, what are you looking for? What are you gonna settle for? Like, you know, all that stuff. And I just kept saying, like, you know, I want character, something cool about him. You know, like, you know, especially if we are looking over a bunch of 160, 170 bucks. Like, what's going to set a 170 apart from a 172 or whatever?
You
It's
want
like
that one that's laid out.
Or maybe the one with the 2-inch kicker.
Yeah,
or
some kind of cool
character.
kicker or the super dark antlers, you know, or, you know, whatever it was. And, you know, that character is what kind of draws me to a buck. And so, like, just the mass and the dark chocolate antlers and the cool bases. We didn't know how cool they were. We knew he had eye guards.
Yeah, at first glance, he was a spotter. You know, it's like, oh, he's just got good eye guards. You get in there and he's just got shit all over his bases. You're like, whoa, man, this is. He's got like little nubs of like 1 and 2 inches, like all over the place.
Yeah,
cool.
little devil tines and stuff like that. So,
He's a stud, man.
He's super cool and just, it was just like I said, I couldn't have asked for a cooler hunt.
Well, I'm pumped for you.
Thanks,
It's a
man.
sweet
I'm pumped
buck.
for you
It's a sweet
too.
buck.
Like,
Yeah,
the
I'm in
fact
the
that-
company of like some badasses right now.
Yeah, it was a good. I mean, it was a good year for a couple Washington bucks to come out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I know of like this year, and they're hard-earned bucks.
Yeah.
But I've known some really good ones that came out of.
Yeah, I started off the season. I was like, hell yeah, boys! Like I got a
Hey,
nice
your buck
archery
is
book.
sweet.
Well,
Yeah, he
Rob
is.
Ensley, man, he's on a 4-point year, man. He killed a 4-point buck up in Alaska. He killed 4-point here in Washington. He goes to Nevada, kills a 4-point
I saw that as
Nevada.
well. Stud
and he
buck.
goes to Montana and kills a 4-point Montana.
Yeah.
He got 4 points.
Yeah,
That's
well,
crazy.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
The guy's a critter, man. He
Yeah.
kills things.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hats
Yeah.
off to guys like that consistently.
And
get
then
big bucks down.
my hunt, actually got all of it on film.
That's
and
gonna
stuff.
be
so that's gonna be getting released here probably in the next month or so.
Yeah, get to work on that.
So you guys will be able to watch everything go down with that one, except for the kill shot because of the fog bank. But you heard the story now, so you know what happened.
Exactly. So that about wraps things up, guys. We're gonna do a giveaway here.